There is perhaps no sound more intimate, more personal, than the sound of your own name being called. It reaches into your consciousness like nothing else can. But what happens when you turn around, expecting to see someone there, and find only empty space? You're certain you heard it, crystal clear. Your name, spoken with intention, perhaps even urgency, yet no physical source can be found. If you've experienced this phenomenon, you are far from alone. Throughout human history, across every culture and continent, people have reported hearing their names called by invisible presences. The ancient Egyptians believed this was the voice of the Ka, the spiritual double that exists alongside us. In Native American traditions, hearing your name was often considered a message from ancestors or spirit guides attempting to make contact. What's fascinating is how universal this experience truly is. I've spoken with thousands of individuals during my decades of spiritual work, from skeptics to believers, from different backgrounds, religions, and walks of life. The story remains remarkably consistent. I heard my name, clear as day. I was alone. There was no explanation. In the quiet moments between thoughts, in the spaces where daily noise fades away, something remarkable can happen. The veil between worlds grows thin. What many don't realize is that consciousness exists on multiple levels simultaneously. While your physical awareness focuses on the material world, other parts of your being remain connected to realms beyond ordinary perception. The great mystic Edgar once described this phenomenon as the call that awakens the soul to its purpose. He suggested that hearing your name when no one is physically present often marks the beginning of a spiritual awakening, a gentle nudge from the universe that something deeper is trying to reach you. Consider Maria's experience, a rational, scientifically minded doctor who never gave much thought to spiritual matters. 3 nights in a row, she heard her name called just as she was falling asleep. On the 3rd night, she felt compelled to call her mother, despite the late hour. She discovered her mother had just been rushed to the hospital with a critical condition. The doctors said that had Maria's mother arrived even 30 minutes later, she wouldn't have survived. Was this merely coincidence? Perhaps. But what if these auditory experiences are actually functioning as a sophisticated alert system, one that operates beyond our conventional understanding of reality? The phenomenon is known in parapsychology as auditory apparitions, or phenomena auditiva paranormal. Unlike visual hallucinations, which are often dismissed as tricks of light or imagination, the experience of hearing your name called with perfect clarity bears a distinctive quality that many describe as more real than real. What makes this experience even more intriguing is its timing. These name calls often occur during transition states, as you're drifting to sleep, just waking up, meditating, or during moments of deep contemplation. These are precisely the moments when our brains shift from beta to alpha or theta wave patterns, the same patterns observed in those experiencing heightened states of spiritual awareness. The ancient wisdom traditions have always understood what modern quantum physics is only beginning to articulate. Consciousness is not confined to the brain. It extends beyond physical boundaries, connecting us to fields of information and intelligence that transcend space and time. Is something calling to you? And more importantly, are you ready to answer? When we explore the phenomenon of hearing your name called by unseen presences, we must consider the nature of consciousness itself. What we perceive as reality is merely a narrow band of awareness, filtered through our limited physical senses. The truth is far more expansive than most dare to imagine. Throughout history, nearly every spiritual tradition has recognized that existence extends beyond the material plane. The Buddhists speak of multiple realms of being. Hinduism describes various lokas or dimensions. Indigenous shamanic traditions worldwide acknowledge the presence of spirit helpers and ancestors who remain accessible to the living. What they all share is the understanding that these realms occasionally intersect with our own. Consider what happens during that precise moment when you hear your name. There's often a quality to the voice that feels distinctly familiar, yet somehow otherworldly. Many report that time seems to briefly suspend. A momentary shift occurs in your perception, a window opening between realities. I've worked with individuals who initially dismissed these experiences, only to discover patterns emerging that could not be explained away. Take Thomas, a construction worker from Portland, who began hearing his name called at job sites. Initially, he ignored it. Then, one afternoon, after hearing his name called with unusual urgency, he stepped back from where he was working. Seconds later, a heavy beam crashed down exactly where he had been standing. What we're discussing goes beyond mere coincidence. These experiences often carry a protective quality, as if invisible guardians are attempting to guide or warn us. In the esoteric traditions, these are sometimes called threshold experiences, moments when the boundary between material and non-material reality temporarily dissolves. The human name carries profound spiritual significance across traditions. In Kabbalah, your name is considered a vessel containing your soul's essence. Ancient Egyptian priests believed knowing someone's true name gave access to their very being. Names are not merely labels, but vibrational signatures that can be recognized and called upon by entities existing in different frequency ranges of consciousness. What's particularly revealing is how these experiences often cluster around significant life transitions, before major decisions, during periods of grief or transformation, or when we stand at crucial crossroads. The incidence of hearing one's name dramatically increases. It's as if these liminal moments create natural thinning points in the veil between worlds. Scientific researchers have attempted to explain this phenomenon through various neurological mechanisms. Some point to auditory pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find familiar patterns in random sounds. Others suggest temporal lobe microseizures or hypnagogic hallucinations during sleep transitions. While these explanations may account for some instances, they fail to address the meaningful connections and timing that so often accompany these experiences. What's most compelling is when multiple people simultaneously hear the same name called. In documented cases from around the world, groups of individuals have reported identical auditory experiences at the same moment, ruling out isolated hallucination as a complete explanation. The late parapsychologist William Roll documented dozens of such cases in his research on collective apparitions. These shared experiences suggest that what we're encountering may be objectively real, just not detectable through conventional scientific instruments. When you hear your name called by an invisible presence, you are experiencing what the mystics have described for millennia, a momentary thinning of the veil that separates ordinary awareness from expanded states of consciousness. You are being reminded that you exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality. The call by name represents one of the most personal forms of spiritual contact. Unlike general paranormal phenomena, hearing your name creates an immediate, intimate connection that bypasses rational filters and speaks directly to your deepest sense of identity. Those who have developed spiritual sensitivity understand that these moments are invitations, opportunities to acknowledge and perhaps even respond to these other levels of existence. Many who have answered this call report profound spiritual awakening and transformation following these experiences. What we're discussing transcends religious boundaries. Christians may interpret it as angelic communication, Buddhists as contact with enlightened beings, and those with no religious affiliation might perceive it as connection with higher consciousness, or even their future self reaching backward through time. The question remains, when you hear your name called from seemingly nowhere, who or what is calling? And perhaps more importantly, what message awaits your response? What happens in the mind when we hear our name called by invisible voices? Is this merely a trick of the brain, or something far more profound? The answers lie at the fascinating intersection of science and spiritual wisdom. Modern neuroscience has shown that our brains process our own names differently than any other word. Brain imaging reveals unique neural activation patterns when we hear our name, even during sleep or semi-conscious states. This heightened response creates what researchers call a name recognition gateway in our consciousness. Yet this scientific explanation only reveals part of the truth. The human mind is not merely a receiver of sensory information, but a transceiver, capable of both receiving and transmitting consciousness across dimensions that science is only beginning to understand. What many traditional psychologists label as hallucination might better be understood as perception beyond the standard sensory channels. I once worked with a woman named Rebecca who began hearing her name called shortly after her grandmother's passing. The voice had her grandmother's distinctive tone and accent. Skeptical by nature, Rebecca initially dismissed these experiences until the voice began sharing specific information about family heirlooms hidden in the attic. items Rebecca had no knowledge of. When the family searched, they found everything exactly where the voice had indicated. This case exemplifies what I've observed hundreds of times. These experiences often carry evidential quality that transcends psychological explanation. The information conveyed frequently includes details unknown to the recipient, yet verifiable afterward. What we're witnessing may be the early stages of humanity's evolving capacity for trans-dimensional communication. Throughout history, certain individuals have demonstrated heightened sensitivity to these subtle realms. The famed American mystic from Virginia Beach, known simply as Edgar, documented over 14,000 psychic readings, where he appeared to access information beyond conventional means. Today, what was once considered exceptional ability may be becoming more widespread as human consciousness undergoes a collective expansion. The phenomenon of hearing your name called extends beyond individual experience into the collective wisdom of indigenous traditions worldwide. Aboriginal elders speak of songlines that call to individuals when they need guidance. In West African spiritual traditions, the ancestors are believed to call the names of those who need to remember their spiritual heritage and purpose. What if these experiences represent an evolutionary adaptation, a developing capacity to receive information directly from expanded fields of consciousness? Just as humans once developed vision, hearing, and other senses to navigate physical reality, perhaps we are now developing spiritual senses to navigate multidimensional existence. The timing of these experiences rarely seems random. They often occur at crucial decision points or moments of danger. Consider the case of Mikhail, a mountain climber who distinctly heard his name called while ascending a difficult peak. He stopped to look around, and in that moment, the ledge where he had been about to step crumbled away. Had he continued, he would have certainly fallen to his death. Thousands of similar accounts suggest these experiences serve as a sophisticated warning system, one that operates beyond our conventional understanding of causality and time. If consciousness exists beyond the constraints of linear time, as quantum physics increasingly suggests, then these calls may represent communication from aspects of reality that can perceive dangers or opportunities invisible to our time-bound awareness. The subconscious mind processes billions of data points that never reach our conscious awareness. Some spiritual traditions teach that this deeper mind remains connected to universal consciousness, what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. When crucial information needs to reach conscious awareness quickly, what better way than through the sound of your own name? What's particularly intriguing is how these experiences often precede periods of significant spiritual growth or life transition. Many spiritual teachers and mystics report hearing their names called before embarking on their paths of service and awakening. It's as if the call by name serves as an initiation, a summons to greater awareness. The resonant quality of your name creates a unique vibrational signature in consciousness. Ancient sound healing traditions understood that specific sounds could attune one's energy to different frequencies of awareness. Your name, having been associated with your identity throughout your life, creates the most direct channel for communication with your conscious mind. As we stand at this pivotal moment in human evolution, more people than ever are reporting these experiences. Perhaps this represents humanity's collective spiritual awakening, a time when the boundaries between physical and non-physical reality are becoming increasingly permeable. When you hear your name called from the invisible realms, you stand at a threshold, a sacred moment of choice. Will you dismiss the experience, or will you recognize it as the invitation it truly is? This final chapter explores how to respond when the unseen world reaches out to you. Throughout my decades of spiritual work, I've guided thousands of individuals through the process of understanding and integrating these profound experiences. The first step is always the same: acknowledgement. Simply recognizing that something meaningful has occurred opens the door to deeper understanding. The call by name often represents what ancient traditions termed the awakening, the moment when a soul begins to recognize its existence beyond material identity. In many spiritual lineages, this experience was considered the first sign of emerging psychic sensitivity or mediumistic ability. The voice calls to awaken you to your expanded potential. How should you respond when you hear your name? First, remain calm and centered. Fear closes the channel of communication, while peaceful awareness keeps it open. Take a moment to silently acknowledge the experience. You might simply think or say, "I hear you. I am open to guidance." This simple act of receptivity can transform a momentary experience into an ongoing dialogue with expanded consciousness. Pay careful attention to any intuitive impressions, emotions, or thoughts that arise immediately following the experience. Often, the true message comes not in the calling of the name itself, but in the subtle information that follows when you become receptive. This may manifest as a sudden knowing, a visual impression, or simply a clear thought that seems to arise from beyond your normal thinking. Maria, a teacher from Arizona, began hearing her name called during her morning meditation. Rather than being frightened, she responded with openness. In the silence that followed, she received a clear impression to check on an elderly neighbor she barely knew. Following this guidance, she discovered the woman had fallen and been unable to reach help for hours. This intervention likely saved the neighbor's life. Such experiences reveal that these phenomena often serve a greater purpose beyond mere spiritual curiosity. They frequently guide us toward acts of service, healing, or protection, both for ourselves and others. The spiritual dimensions appear most interested in fostering compassion and connection in the material world. Throughout history, spiritual adepts have developed practices to enhance their receptivity to these subtle communications. Regular meditation creates the inner silence necessary to hear the whispers of higher consciousness. Journaling about your experiences helps identify patterns and meanings that might otherwise be missed. Creating sacred space through ritual or prayer can also strengthen your connection to these dimensions of awareness. What many fail to understand is that hearing your name called represents just the beginning of potential communication. Like any relationship, the connection strengthens with attention and intention. Those who approach these experiences with sincere openness often report increasingly clear guidance over time. The great paradox is that while these experiences may seem extraordinary, they actually represent our natural state of being. We are multidimensional beings temporarily focused in physical reality. The call by name serves as a reminder of our true nature, expansive consciousness temporarily expressing through physical form. Research conducted at the Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented thousands of cases where individuals report receiving crucial information through these seemingly paranormal channels. The evidence suggests we may be witnessing the emergence of a new relationship between humanity and the field of consciousness itself, a relationship characterized by direct communication rather than intermediary religious structures. When skeptics dismiss these experiences, they often miss their transformative potential. Whether interpreted through spiritual or psychological frameworks, the call by name frequently precedes profound positive changes in people's lives. It often marks the beginning of a journey toward greater purpose, expanded awareness, and deeper connection to all of life. The renowned seer known simply as Edgar predicted that the 21st century would witness a great awakening of psychic abilities in humanity at large. What was once the domain of special individuals would become increasingly common as part of humanity's spiritual evolution. The rising reports of name-calling phenomena worldwide may represent the fulfillment of this prophecy. As we conclude our exploration, I invite you to consider your own experiences with new perspective. If you've heard your name called by unseen presences, recognize the profound gift being offered. You are being reminded of your connection to dimensions beyond the material, dimensions that have been acknowledged by wisdom traditions throughout human history. The next time you hear your name called from seemingly nowhere, pause in that sacred moment, take a breath. Listen not just with your ears, but with your entire being. The universe is reaching out to you personally, calling you by name. And in that call lies an invitation to remember who you truly are, a multidimensional being on an eternal journey of awakening. The question is no longer whether these experiences are real, but rather, how will you answer when your name is called? Did this video resonate with your own experiences? Have you heard your name called when no one was there? Your story matters to our spiritual community. Take a moment now to subscribe to our channel for more profound spiritual insights and hit the notification bell so you never miss our weekly revelations. Share your personal experiences in the comments below. Each testimony helps others understand they're not alone in these mysterious encounters. Remember, when we share our spiritual journeys, we create a powerful collective wisdom. Subscribe, comment, and join us on this path of awakening.